Hey guys, today I'm going to give you another garden tour. We have a bit of a break in the rain today, so I figured I'd take advantage of that. It's been a very cool and wet, rainy growing season here so far. What is it, the 8th of August, I think? 9th of August? I can't remember. And yeah, I have mixed feelings obviously about it. It's been really great not having to water, and some stuff that likes cool weather is obviously thriving, but some stuff is, yeah, needs more heat, needs more sun in order to produce the amount of fruit that I'm looking for to get out of it, like tomatoes. My pickling cucumbers are not doing very good. Some of them got some powdery mildew, same with my pumpkins. But yeah, let's have a look and see how everything's doing. Got my trusty little garden friend here. These are one of the varieties of Roma tomatoes that I planted. Some of them are starting to get some nice big fruit setting on the bottom here, growing on the bottom, but they're really lush and they look really healthy, but I would like them to have been twice this size by now, or at least had twice as much fruit on them. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's early in the month still. Maybe we'll get a month of good weather yet. So yeah, these guys are another kind of Romas. They're Roma VF. See if I can get it to focus. And I actually have some fruit that's ripening. Sorry, my camera's not focusing. Ripening fruit on here, which is really cool because I've never had determinate varieties of tomatoes ripen on the plant very well. So I don't know, maybe my thought process on tomatoes is flawed. These are the Romanas Ukraine ones that I started from seed, and they're kind of weird. They're kind of like the Amish pastes that I put in last year. And I thought I remembered reading somewhere that Amish pastes were an indeterminate variety of tomato, or I don't know. They just have really long, droopy branches on them, but they still produce a lot of suckers, like a determinate variety of tomato. Sorry, I can't talk very well today. So, I don't know. They're starting to set fruit a little bit on the bottom. They're a bit behind though, obviously because of, these are the ones that I started from seed pretty late, and yeah, they were just a little bit behind. So the asparagus bed is doing its thing. Some of them I trimmed back just because they were crowding these things that I have planted in front a little bit, but I think I did 6 or so weeks of harvesting this spring, like you might have heard me mention before, and now they're ferning out, which is, yeah, doing their thing. These Lasanito kales are producing quite a bit. Garlic is doing really well. Garlic is just like my favorite thing to grow. I regret that I did not discover how easy garlic was to grow like so many years ago, but at least I discovered it now. This I'll pull, I don't know, maybe next week when it dries out a little bit more. And yeah, I'm excited to hopefully add a couple more kinds of garlic to what I plant this fall, and probably plant 4 times as much as I usually plant. So I think this is 48 cloves of garlic that I planted, so 48 plants now that I have, and I want to try and plant a couple hundred of them, I think, this fall. So yeah, Brussels sprouts are really just thriving. Brassicas are all loving this cool weather, except for the cabbages that are getting eaten by the slugs a little bit. But my pickling cucumbers that I have along this trellis here on the north side of this bed, I had good intentions and thought that by the time this stuff in the front got big, these would have gotten big enough that they wouldn't have been shaded out, but I think that's the opposite of what's actually happening. So these guys, a couple of the plants I pulled because they were covered in powdery mildew, in hopes to save the rest of them. I pulled them, but yeah, they're not doing too great. They're kind of yellow. That's just the soil is really cold and wet and hard for them to access the nutrients that they need. I do have a couple growing on here, but again, let's hope that we get a good month of some good weather so that I can actually get a crop big enough to make my year's worth of pickles out of it. So these potatoes, I haven't touched them since I put them in there. I haven't weeded them, nothing. I haven't hilled them. They're so shaded, like the foliage is so dense that I don't think hilling them is going to be an issue because no sun is penetrating in there. Pumpkins that are covered in powdery mildew. You can see down on the base of that one there. This is that Howden Pumpkin. I don't know if you guys have heard me talk about it before. I was going to let it or train it to climb up this chicken wire here, kind of trellis it. At that time though, I didn't realize how big a fruit that pumpkin was supposed to set, like 20 to 30 pound fruits. So I cut it back, pulled it back through, and then I was hoping to get it to grow outside of, oh, nice crow cawing at me, grow outside of the fence here. But I don't know, I'll be lucky if I get something out of these. They're just so sad and drowned. But oh well, it is what it is, can't win them all. But on the positive note of squash, you'll see these are my other winter squash. Sorry, I'm a little bit shaky apparently. These are my Buttercup Squash. There's 3 plants on each trellis. So these are Buttercup Squash. The middle trellis are Spaghetti Squash, and then the south trellis, that far one, are the 3 different varieties of Butternut Squash. As you can see, they look healthy and they're doing well and they are growing, but they're a little bit behind. So I'll be surprised if I get any fruit on those, but yeah, we'll see. The Spaghetti Squash are just, yeah, this is the biggest win, I think, of 2019 gardening, was trellising my winter squash. I've never done this before, and I don't think I'll ever not do it. So yeah, one nice big one sitting there. Not a whole lot. I had a big problem though with some blossom end rot. Not so much with these ones, mostly with my like zucchinis and my summer bush squash, because it's just been so wet and I wasn't picking any of the blossoms off, and the water was pooling in them and rotting them. So yeah, I've been picking the blossoms off now for the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, and that's helping. But yeah, these are just doing their thing, super easy. I weave them whenever they get some growth on them. I just force them back in on the other side, and yeah, super easy. Down the jungle pathway here, little carrots, or some of my carrots, sorry, a little random tomato, some more of this Lasanito kale. These are my purple cabbages. There's 3 of them there. There were 4 smaller green cabbages, alternating those, that I pulled a couple weeks ago just because they were, the slugs are really starting to beat them up. So I harvested them while they were a little bit smaller, because then at least I would get something out of them. But yeah, more Lasanito kale, some zinnias. These are my cylinder beets. A couple of herbs hiding in there. Again, didn't really, or I underestimated just how big these Brussels sprouts were going to get. So next year I won't plant quite as densely, but still high intensity planting, because it's the way to go. Lots of dill, crackerjack marigolds, tons of calendula. I've been harvesting calendula like crazy this year. I don't know why I didn't ever grow calendula before this year. It's just wonderful. There's some better Brussels sprouts in there. They're quite holy though, because there have been tons of flea beetles this year, and they're just like, I thought flea beetles was a thing of spring, but it's been a thing of spring and summer, and yeah, it's just a constant nuisance this year. But yeah, harvesting lots of chard, harvesting lots of kale, all that kind of stuff. These are chaga beets. They're the candy cane stripe beets. Harvested a couple of those. What else? More carrots. My onions this year though, like, look at these guys. These are the sets that I planted. This bed is all sets of yellow onions, and then in here I have sets of red ones in there that are also doing really good. And then in between the pickling cucumbers and these Brussels sprouts, there are some like seeds, onions, like plants that I started myself from seed, and they're actually getting some nice little size bulbs on them too, which is really cool. These tomatoes again, more carrots, lots of marigolds. I say that the vining or trellising the winter squash is the biggest win of the year, but this I think is the biggest success of the year so far. Look at this guy. I've never grown peppers before. Every time I've tried, I've only ever had aphids. As soon as they would bud, the aphids would just decimate them. So I have that little pepper there. There's another little pepper growing on a plant on there, and a couple of the ones over there have some really small fruit setting on them. But even if I just get this one red pepper, that's like, biggest one of the year, or biggest success of the year. Squash, again, not doing super well because I only just recently started pulling blossoms off. But they're getting there. Just so much water, just crazy amount of rain. I've never seen so much rain in the summer here. zucchini, a few different zucchini plants. Those ones down at the end are those bush spaghetti squash. Here's another little pepper here. Oh wow, look at you. It's getting big. Starting to. So those cabbages are looking pretty nice. These are supposed to be bush. They're kind of like a bush vine hybrid. They're getting bigger than I thought they would, but that's okay. This kale has just been like a food factory for me. Every few days I will pick the bottom 3 or 4 leaves from each plant and then bring them in the house, wash them, and then put them in the dehydrator. So this year I want to have more than I could ever hope to have for dehydrated kale. So yeah, so much easier to process than the other lacinato kale like I mentioned, and yeah, really happy with them. And then on the fence here, this new bed that I put in and put my pole green beans and sweet peas, nasturtiums, sunflowers. It's hard to, maybe I'll go around the other side of the fence and show you guys, but I'm just so happy with how this turned out. These sweet peas are just loving the cool weather. There's, picking sweet peas like every other day. There's so many of them. They're so beautiful, so fragrant. Starting to get some green beans on the bottom ones. Again, need some heat so I can get a year's worth of green beans. These are those butternut squash. Like I said, they're healthy and they're growing. They're just a little bit slow. On the end of every bed here, I have parsley and marigolds. I don't know why I put so much parsley in. That's more than I could ever hope to use in a year of fresh eating and dehydrated. But yeah, look at these green beans and sunflowers just thriving. These little spaces here where these small tomatoes are were where my lettuces and spinach and stuff was this spring, and then I pulled them and put rutabagas in, and none of my rutabagas germinated because it was old seed. So I plunked in some extra tomato plants that I had here, hoping to better something than nothing. So if I get a little bit of fruit out of those, I'll be very pleasantly surprised. More peppers, more onions, lemon basil that apparently I've let go to flower. Yeah, these guys are doing pretty good. It's not hot enough for them though still, even though they are inside. When it's only 10 degrees outside, it's only 19 degrees in here, right? So without any sunshine. Not sure what this beefsteak's problem is. He's got crazy leaf curl and yellowing leaves. And this guy, he's getting a little bit bigger every day, so maybe I'll get one teeny tiny watermelon yet. More tomatoes. They're making lots of good fruit, so, and these guys I'm keeping pretty pruned. So yeah, but I've only eaten a couple of tomatoes so far this year. They're just not ripening. Everything's so slow. Feed baked potatoes out here just doing their thing. They've been been eating a few potatoes out of those, and they've been really yum. The slugs are just, they're having a good year. Quickly show you the outside look of these. Like, look at these sweet peas. Oh, look, some sunshine. They're just so beautiful. So beautiful. I've never grown sweet peas like this before. This little side bed here, this is some extra potatoes that I plunked in there. All these sunflowers are voluntary. They're from either wild birds or from the chicken manure that I worked into this bed, because I give them some wild bird seed as treats once in a while. So yeah, I have a couple of sunflowers. Really pretty. Yeah, those guys are doing their thing. My corn, this is that Simonette corn that I got from the Heritage Harvest Seed. It's a really short, sorry, got a bug in my glasses, cool weather variety. It's supposed to get maximum of 5 feet tall, and it only grows 2 ears per stalk, and they're set low on the stalk. And yeah, there's lots of ears on there. Just need some good weather. There you have it, guys. There's the an updated little garden tour. Not a little, it's a lot longer than I thought, but if you made it to the end of this video, I sure appreciate it. And as always, if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.